Hello, Internet, and welcome to the Pod Squadron podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about the full scope of the Star Wars experience, coming from games, movies, film, streaming, comic books, and everything else that you could probably find that has Star Wars on it. Because if you know Disney, they're going to put Star Wars on everything. So we're here for all of that. Just wanted to wish everybody happy holidays and thank you for joining us today. As always, we have our guest, director, fighter, choreographer, performer, puppeteer. We want to hear more about the puppet action. Puppeteer and Chinese pirate, Andy Lowe. How are you doing, Andy?
Doing okay.
Good to hear. We also have performance artist, aerialist, and events designer and coordinator, the kaleidoscope creature, Lexi Lee. How's it going, Lexi?
It's been a week. It's good to be here with you guys.
I know, right? It's been kind of crazy.
So I get to just talk about Star Wars. Thank God I get to just talk about Star Wars with you guys.
And Andy's your ray of light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes, I did forget to mention Andy is holographing, projecting himself in. His visage is stored on a droid somewhere. Yes. So glad to have him.
We had to move away from the asteroid belt so that we can make a clear connection. So
you're our only hope, Andy. You're our only hope.
Yes, we do hope your transmissions won't get blocked by some trade dispute.
Indeed.
All right, and finally we have myself. I am Mr. Benja from the 8-Bit Cubist, artist, designer, and former game developer, but still likes to talk a lot of trash about game development and art and design. And finally, we have Tracy. We have the blogger and occasional cosplay artist and the one and only hot nerd girl. How are you doing, Tracy?
I'm wearing black because I'm in mourning.
Oh.
For the Razor Crest.
I see. It's we might as well go ahead and say it right now. Usually we have a spoiler warning somewhere along the way in the show. This whole episode, we're just going to try to be spoilerific, and if something comes up that happened in the Mandalorian last episode, we're going to just go ahead and talk about it. So spoiler warning, general spoiler warning for the entire show. You've been warned. Yeah.
And I will be keeping an eye on the chat tonight. And if you do press the donate button, it is going to go to typhoon relief in the Philippines. So as opposed to if you want to donate to us specifically, you can do something. But if you do donate on there tonight, and it'll go to the typhoon relief.
Awesome.
FYI.
Thanks. So yeah, holidays are here. Everybody seems to be feeling pretty good. I'm glad we're still here doing this. Sorry about the change of time and everybody. Things are changing and it's crazy times out there. And we felt that 8 p.m. was going to work well. We'll see if we stick with it. But just follow us on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all the channels, and make sure that you just keep up, and we'll definitely be letting you know what our time is going to be every week. Sorry for those of you who showed up early. I hope you're well prepared. All right. So, Tracy, you almost threw me off for a second there when you started to offer condolences. you really threw me off there because I thought you were going to mention our the legend known as David Prowse. Could you go ahead and?
There was 2 passings this week of pop culture icons. David Prowse, who of course was the physical actor who portrayed Darth Vader and was originally, I think, intended to be the voice until they brought in James Earl Jones and dubbed over everything. But a lot of people mention how he was sort of a grumpy guy, and he had a lot of health problems throughout his life. But I do have one quick story. It's not necessarily my story, but it's a really good story. And that is a dear friend of mine named Blaine. He happened to be at a convention at one point, and he was helping somebody out or had a booth or something. And so he was just wandering around. And he stumbled upon this room that had David Prowse, and they said, "Oh, do you want to go in and meet him?" And he was like, "Are you kidding me? Of course. Like, this is like my hero." And he goes in, he actually has to go through like the whole like line, and he gets up to David Prowse, and David Prowse is just really grumpy and not even making eye contact. And Blaine tells him, in such a genuine way, like what he meant to him, that David Prowse said, "Oh, well, would you like any of these posters or anything?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'd love some." And so he starts grabbing all the things. He gets David Prowse to sign all of them. And at the end, they're like, "Okay, it'll be this much money." And he's like, "Oh, I don't have any money. I don't have any money with me." And David Prowse had been so moved by him that he said, "Don't worry, just take it, just take it." But Blaine felt so bad, and he carried that for so long. And when he got a chance to meet David Prowse again years later, he went and he paid him back for all the stuff. But he went from being grumpy because he was in so much pain to being just really genuine with him, and it ended up being one of the best moments of his life and something he always remembered for the rest of his life. And in contrast to that, his meeting with Harrison Ford was the complete opposite, so negative that I hate Harrison Ford. I love Han Solo, but I hate
Who truly is grumpy.
Yeah. And when Blaine passed away, people got T-shirts made that said "Fuck Harrison Ford" because he was so mean to Blaine. But yeah, but David Prowse was a sweetheart to him, so he'll always have a special place in my heart.
Awesome. Yeah, R.I.P. to a definite legend there.
Yeah.
When you have a show, a product, a community such as the Star Wars development community, not just the fans, but more specifically the creative crew behind it, you start to develop these family ties. So, somebody as iconic as David Prowse, who, shows up at conventions and things, and is definitely an iconic figure. When he passes away, it definitely has an effect throughout the community. So we just wanted to recognize that quickly. I'm also amused, Andy, at how heartily you laughed at the Harrison Ford reference.
I mean, he's leaned into his reputation, so I think he enjoys the fear that people have of him now.
I got to admit, though, I don't know many actors. I'm not into the actor community. So you guys have to tell me, how are they generally perceived as grumpy or mean, or, I don't know, standoffish?
You know who the nicest people are the Star Trek actors. They really are. Sorry. Oh, this is a Star Wars podcast, but they really are.
I believe that.
I think it's a tricky thing, right? Because you sign up to do the work and do storytelling. You don't necessarily sign up to become a near religious icon. And I think that can be a lot of pressure on people. Even just some of the stars of the new sequel trilogy have even described just how overwhelming it was to just be inundated. We have a number of people we know that have had to leave social media or kind of limit their accessibility. Even Ahmed Best, who played Jar Jar Binks, talked a little bit about that after the anniversary of Phantom Menace, right? So I think it's a tricky thing. I think most people, any actor is excited to be part of a franchise like this, but yeah, it's definitely signing up for something else.
All right. Yeah, from my point of view, all actors are weird. I come from the programmer ilk, so I know I'm weird in my programmer weird ways, but just to let you guys know, if I look at you funny, it's because I think you're an actor, not because of anything personal.
Wow. Well, that's good to know. I will say a caveat about the Harrison Ford meeting. It was at an award show. It's not like it was at randomly on the street or something like that. And he was quite cruel to him at an award show. So, I feel like there's one thing to be at a restaurant and be with your kids and be like, look, I'm having dinner with my kids. Is it okay? To being at an award show where you're talking to a lot of different people and to just be a total jerk,
Yeah.
I feel like, there's a difference.
Yeah. But I mean, by the way, Tracy, I don't think it's a problem that you brought up Star Trek, because if we have Zoe Saldana, who also crosses over, so there is a connection there besides the sci-fi connection and the fact that it's just a great franchise as well. But Zoe Saldana does cross over the world, so like it counts to me.
Absolutely.
It counts to me. That's the rules I play by.
Well, I'm such a huge fan of both, so I think they can coexist. They're different. One's sci-fi and one is epic space fantasy.
I love that. I personally love that you bring it up all the time. So I do. I love the cross references. I really do. I do.
I had to buy a shower curtain because all my backgrounds were Star Trek. But I had lots of toys,
Indeed, you have a whole collection of those of the little figurines.
It just so happens that most of my large posters are Star Trek. What can I say?
So speaking of figurines, where do you get all your figurines and merch, Tracy?
So Darth Vader here, that was one from when the original movie came out. That was my cousin Steven's. And when he passed away from cancer a couple of years ago, that was what he left me in his will. And it still has the cape and everything. It doesn't have a lightsaber, but it's I really treasure him. And then my friend Colleen crocheted this Grogu back right after the very first episode. BB-8. That's one of the drinky things from Disney World when I was on tour for doing car stuff, and I got that in Florida. That was the same week as that was the day the morning after the Orlando club shooting that I got.
Oh gosh. Wow.
And then that popcorn bucket, that was because I got to go to the world premiere of The Force Awakens in Hollywood. And those were the popcorn buckets that they gave us. And I've got a bunch of little Lego things because they had all kinds of stuff. And then all my little metal models, of course, that I built. And that's just what's behind me. I've got more, but.
Wow, that's impressive. And thank you for sharing that. And I wanted to bring that up because it's the holiday season. Everyone is going nuts for stuff, but not everybody is out on the. Not everybody's out running around with the safer at home orders. And so it's a little different holiday season this year, but we only have 3 Mando Mondays left before Christmas. So what is a Mando Monday, you ask? Well, StarWars.com, the official Lucasfilm guys, they started up this thing called Mando Mondays. And basically they're riding the whole wave of The Mandalorian and bringing out new merch, new items, new shirts every week. And they're basically calling to get all your money. And that's why I don't go on the website, because I would send them all my money. Saw there was a red Funko Pop Mandalorian. I might need that. And, it's funny. Star Wars is one of those properties where you kind of have to get into the collectibles in some way. And that goes back to the history of Star Wars itself with Kenner Toys and, Lucas making that big deal to get a lot of the profits from merchandising as opposed to the film itself. So
clearly it worked.
Yeah.
Oh, boy, did it. Yes.
Smart move.
Really cool.
Yeah, we can. And if any of you have any questions about that or anything we say, actually, just make sure you drop it in the Twitch chat or anything. But yeah, that was a long storied history of crazy merchandising. So you got 3 Mondays left to get all your merch. If you get any merch and you think it's pretty cool, make sure you send us a link, send us a picture. As I said,
we want to see your stuff.
I'm broke, so I want to see all the things that you guys get. I'm going to live vicariously through all of you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, Lexi, what I want to do, I want to get some sort of Star Wars goblet like you have. I don't know, but that's not a Star Wars goblet, but I need a goblet now.
It looks. I mean, it doesn't not look.
It's like the chalice of the palace.
It looks less out of place than Jean's guy.
Yeah.
I feel like I actually look less out of place than Jean's guy.
Oh yeah, you've got an Indiana Jones thing going on. I feel like that's the
Holy Grail.
The Holy Grail.
Yeah. There you go. No. Remember the Holy Grail, because he was a carpenter's son, right? So
Yeah, it was super simple looking. Yeah.
And it is. I mean, it's pewter. It's not. It's not like silver or anything fancy.
Awesome. So yeah, as I said, send us any images, pics, or anything like that you've got. Help make this more of a community. We want to talk with you guys, hear what you've got to say. And people have got things to say now because this episode has started to change things in a way that I don't know. The internet lit up. It was streaming in multiple ways. Trending in multiple ways. You had Star Wars trending. You had Boba Fett trending. You had, Baby Yoda trending again. It's just all kinds of trending. And so we're going to go ahead and get into our season 2, episode 6, aka chapter 14, rundown, response. And Andy, I'll let you and Tracy take it away.
All right. So, chapter 14. The Tragedy. After their encounter with Ahsoka Tano, the Mandalorian Din Djarin and the child Grogu head for the ancient planet Tython, in search of an ancient Jedi temple in hopes that a seeing stone might be the key to making contact with a Jedi who will agree to teaching the diminutive, force-sensitive child how to control his powers. But after the revelations discovered in the Imperial scientific base on the planet Navarro that Moff Gideon is still alive and still pursuing the child to drain his high M-count blood, time is of the essence for the travelers. With many forces in the galaxy pursuing them, it's hard to know who is friend and who is foe. So this episode was great, right? Couple things about this. First of all, this is the first episode that we did not know the title of until the opening credits came out. We did not know it was called The Tragedy. And of course, as soon as people saw that, people started to freak out. Again, we were talking Twitter was not safe for anyone.
This was a very spoilery week. People were the actors were saying stuff. People were just posting all over the place. It was unavoidable. It's
like by Friday night around 10 o'clock, even Tamara Morrison made his first Instagram post since 2018.
Yeah, and that's the actor for Boba Fett.
Yes.
Don't you think he was probably like, I'm being cool, guys. Yay. And then everybody's like, no. And he's like, oh.
So this episode, anything spoiled really quickly?
I pretty much watch it at midnight on Thursday, so to avoid that.
I watch it Fridays at lunch.
You didn't get hit with any spoilers.
I tend to avoid the spoilers because if I'm have a screen in my face, it's because I'm at work up until I watch it on Friday. And so I don't go on social media until I see it. I'm just like, nope, don't even risk it. Don't even risk it. Someone's trying to DM me. It's gotta wait. Yeah, nothing much gets done digitally on Fridays until I watch Mandalorian. I quarantine. I social distance myself from social media.
There you go.
So this episode was probably one of our shortest for this season, at about 33 minutes, which, as we have discovered, is pretty symptomatic of high amounts of action or action-packed episodes. And boy, was this one of those. The episode was directed by Robert Rodriguez. We knew that coming in. And much like many episodes this season, the premise was really simple, right? Perhaps, just based on a single story beat kind of playing out and letting kind of the action and our characters kind of deal with it and confront the issues. It was great fun. I am a fan of Robert Rodriguez, and just kind of seeing his aesthetic come to Star Wars was great fun. I mean, you can see all these nods, and we'll get into all the kind of stylistic nods and the Easter eggs in a little bit with Tracy. But certainly, you can see homages to his previous films. Also, I just have to mention, I have to appreciate how leave it to Robert Rodriguez, of all people, to figure out how to keep Star Wars completely bloodless while making it totally brutal. Yeah, that was just great. The cinematography was fantastic. As much as I loved last week's episode, there were things in how the fight scenes were framed and shot where I was like, this is more about the personal effects of the fight versus today's episode this is about the fight. The way the editing was, the way you have full body shot frames to kind of highlight the action. It's very much akin to all the 90s John Woo and Hong Kong cinema influence that has played out in Robert Rodriguez's career throughout his life. So I had a great time with this, and of course with all the character reveals, which we're going to get into in a sec. It was short, fun, and satisfying.
So before we get into the nitty gritty of the construction, how it was put together, and things like that, we mentioned in the previous one a little bit about how the story was progressing, and we weren't sure how these last three were going to play out. And what was his name? Hal Hinkle, I believe, from ILM, said, yeah, these last three episodes are going to be a roller coaster. And if you remember our last episode, we were talking about, well, okay, Robert Rodriguez is a pretty good guy to throw in the, roller coaster action. Well, as action-packed as it was and as simple as it was, we definitely got a lot of the story moving forward. And that's what really surprised me, is how fast and quick things happened. They ended up landing on the planet, and they didn't have a bunch of, let's search through the trees, let's climb up the mountain. It's like they fly in. Oh, there it is. We're going to put the baby on that thing, and we're about to defend this, defend our area right now until the baby finishes doing what he's got to do. Grogu, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I was just amazed at how quickly it started to push the story through the action and through even the reveal of Slave One. And a lot of people, I'm not sure, realize that that's what the ship was in the sky. But it came flying out of the sky shortly after they landed. And I, as a Star Wars fan, I'm like, that's Boba Fett's ship. That's the Slave One.
Did you get emotional? I got emotional.
Totally emotional. I'm watching this, and I actually had a thought. I almost feel sorry for people who don't realize what that is coming in. But yeah, it was such a great setup. As I said, it plays both ways. If you didn't know what the ship was, and if you did know, it still plays for you as a viewer. So, a lot of people were posting reaction videos and almost crying about, the fact that it showed up, because we didn't get anything from Boba Fett since the last jingles on the spur jingle that they played way back.
Walking up to Fennec Shand.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And of course we got the tease at the end of episode 1.
Okay.
It felt very earned, the way they did it, the way they brought him in, the way that they introduced him with Slave One. I mean, it felt very earned and like vindicating to have that character swoop in when he did, in a way.
And look like a total badass, and like all the people who are like, oh, he's the guy that just got like knocked into the side and then fell into a pit, and like, oh, like what's so great about Boba Fett? Like in this episode, we really got to see why he was such the feared bounty hunter that he was prior to the incident on Tatooine.
Right. Yeah. Well, and even
having
also,
a bad day.
Well, a bad rocket. Also,
even also,
jetpack.
That it's a great thing to start him off without the armor, so you get to see Tamura Morrison. A lot of people might not know Tamura Morrison actually, as an actor, has quite a filmography and a discography in New Zealand. He's a recording artist and a major action film star down there. So there's getting him to like full on action out and be the soft spoken And also, no heel turn. You know, we now know that Boba Fett is kind of a lawful neutral, as opposed to being the kind of swindling, scoundreling bounty hunter, ruthless, right?
I liked how he looked like he could have been a Jedi when he was walking up. Like, it was understandable that Din would mistake him for that. And Tamura is half Maori, and when he's fighting, you see it in his facial expressions. You know, like you see him making the faces that they make. Is it the haka?
The Haka.
Haka, yeah. It looked like, especially when he went down on that stormtrooper from above, like his face, I was like, that's some Maori right there.
He's very expressive.
Awesome. Andy lives next to a fire station.
Yes, hello. I'll mute.
I thought I loved, as far as like a whole script analysis, character arc, directing breakdown of that choice that Benja mentioned of having Boba Fett start out unarmored, and pick up his armor, because his armor, again, being part of his identity, but also that we get to, for the first time really seeing this character in years, you see him at his most vulnerable. You find, like, you see him, you meet him, and it's the opposite of Din Djarin, who's armored up when we first meet him. And it's Grogu that's bringing him out of his shell. And with Boba Fett, he comes to Din Djarin fully vulnerable and has no other way to present. I don't know. I hope that I like that they're keeping him in the plot. I like that they're doing that, and I hope that we get to see that impact Mando's character, that he gets to see a Mandalorian that he can admire, can look up to, that he doesn't maybe have such conflicted feelings about as he does with Bo-Katan, who like didn't, kind of just moved the goalposts on him.
Well, and vice versa.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
right?
Also,
exactly,
right?
yeah. And so that was a little fraught.
Go ahead. You go.
Well, that frog lady, what was that?
Yeah. That was my best frog lady. My best frog lady. We need a translation.
So real quick, like you mentioned that what's interesting, like we were talking about story, and this isn't usually the way that one thinks of story. They're using a lot of interesting ways to tell a story, with history, with setting, with vibe, with I don't want to say class, but you have different groups. That's the way I'll put it. Different groups going against each other. So their very interaction is telling a story in itself.
Absolutely.
Very interesting how it's all happening here. And like Andy has always been talking about the lone wolf and cub kind of father child relationship that Mando has with Grogu. And then we get to see Mando, who's really had no family for a while, has been on his own, suddenly has this figure that's been in the armor for all this time, showing up like, yeah, I know these galaxy streets, boy. This is my armor, and I've done this a long time. Mm-hmm. So now he kind of has this father figure of his own. And yeah, this was basically Boba's episode, and I'm just kind of glad to see that. We also have a comment here right quick. Paul Jr. says Boba Fett's a beast, and we got a comment from Ring Capacity saying this is Boba's redemption for sure. Yeah, people with their Boba Fett shrines in their house and the big Mandalorian plaque on the wall have been waiting for this. And
he's also asking who Grogu could have been talking to, which if you look closely, it does look like there's somebody up there with him.
I have to miss that.
On the Seeing Stone?
Yeah, if you look at one of the scenes where you can just see the stones from above, you can see what looks like the Seeing Stone with Grogu on it, and then to the left there's another figure.
Oh, really?
Right
I
there.
didn't see
Yeah.
that.
Ooh, time for rewatch.
Yeah.
So while we're there, we're talking about the spreading of the universe and it getting bigger and more exciting and just connecting more plots. Who could have you been talking to? There's good and bad Force sensitives that he could have connected with. So the obvious theory is, Ezra Bridger from Rebels. Mm-hmm. And that's the kind of obvious theory that they've been throwing around. He's the one that would still be alive. I don't think he was mentioned in Rey's, dead Force ghost vision. So it's kind of confirmed, I guess, maybe that he's alive.
He's still at this point, right?
Yeah, and because his last, well, at least I think, yes, Luke is still around. And then because Ezra's last known location was in another dimension after he helped Ahsoka, and Ahsoka's last known is still, I guess, trying to find him.
So I mean, that's the thing, right? Is that the last we've seen of Ezra was at the end of Rebels when he basically used some Purgles, which are basically some kind of a space whale that can access hyperspace organically.
Okay, it sounds crazy when you say it like that.
That's the thing.
I mean, they're space whales. I'm saying.
a Doctor Who fan, so space whales are nothing.
Oh Lord!
Right.
But
real quick, Andy, who is Ezra Bridger?
Oh gosh. So he's was kind of he's Space Aladdin, more or less.
Space Aladdin.
I'm not kidding,
true.
man.
No, you're right.
Totally Space Aladdin.
Because you're right. I'm laughing because you're right.
I mean, so he was the main protagonist of Star Wars Rebels, who is a force-sensitive kid on the planet Lothal. His parents are gone. He is literally a street rat who gets picked up by a small cell of rebels who both teach him the ways of the Force and get him involved in the rebellion.
Does that eventually make Chopper his really crabby Abu?
I mean, either Chopper or Zeb, right? Zeb is just a giant buff Abu.
Okay, so you know how a big thing with Grogu is that he's had to suppress the Force. Mm-hmm. Isn't the main guy, the main guy of the Rebels, didn't he have to do the same thing?
I'm
blanking on his name right now. Kanan, yes. Didn't he have to do that as well to escape Order 66?
I believe. I honestly don't remember if they made that a thing, but I mean, I know that he was hiding his Force ability until
for a while.
Yeah, until Ezra comes along. I mean, honestly, Rebels. I've been in the middle of a rewatch of Rebels, and I gotta say, I forgot how good the show is. The first season is very kind of fluffy, but like after the first season, they dig in deep, and the idea is that both Ezra and Kanan are very imperfect Force users. Kanan is a Padawan whose master was killed and then went into hiding. So he never really finished his training, and he's still very he has self-confidence issues. He gets very angry and very self-conscious all the time. Has PTSD. And then, of course, Ezra is very passionate and very shaped by his kind of, the loss of his parents. So, both of them are Force users that are very imperfect in a lot of really interesting ways. But ultimately, that's like a plot point of how they are better at what they do for what they're needed for, because they are not traditional Jedi.
Yeah. So I definitely, if anybody has any ideas on who might be the recipient of that call, go ahead and throw it in the chat. By the way,
there's a bunch of them. Would you like me? Yeah. Would you like me to list them off?
Do the list.
Wait, hold on. My mouse is not working. Hold on.
I mean, obviously, Luke.
On.
I'm hoping for some Force user that is a little bit more ambiguous, because I really hope that they explore healthy processing of negative emotions.
Yeah.
Because this is a really good opportunity and time and place in the conversation creatively to do that. Because in the past, it's either been like the Sith or, the First Order, like the Knights of Ren. They're all like, oh yeah, take the negative, run with it. It gives you fuel. And, then the Jedi, on the other hand, were all suppression. And like, you can only take that so far. Not all suppression, but there was a lot of that in there, which is one of the reasons why Yoda was like, yeah, burn it. It's fine. We'll figure something out new that's better,
Yes, I mean the path to the dark side, as we've discovered, is toxic masculinity.
Okay. Do you want to know who some of the ideas are here?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. The first suggestion, of course, from Jason was that he was contacting Jedi tech support. One was Palpatine ducks, space ducks, named Howard. Okay. Luke, another Palpatine, Mace Windu, Ezra and Luke are top contenders. Snoke, Obi-Wan's ghost, which it totally could be a Force ghost.
Totally could be Obi-Wan's Force ghost.
Yoda. Yeah.
Yoda would also be.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I think that's all of them, unless people have a new one.
I mean, like the main ones, of course, are Luke, because we know at this point in the timeline he is starting his Jedi temple, right? And then, of course, Ezra, possible, but Ezra might be unlikely, just because Ezra, I would imagine, would be like the MacGuffin of an Ahsoka series, which we think is coming. And then there's also like some of the characters from the video games. Like some people are saying Cal Kestis, which I haven't played. Was that Jedi Fallen Order?
I don't know the video games well enough to say anything, really. No, I just mean any of them.
Yeah. I was thinking too, just popped in my head. I was thinking, what if it's just Ahsoka again? Like,
what if she changes her mind?
She changes her mind and just, you know what I mean?
It's okay. So,
I
would throw my popcorn at the screen.
Not to bandwagon on your suggestion, but it crossed my mind when I rewatched that episode last week, that they left it open to do that when they fly off, and she does like a second look back, and she kind of like smiles, and she's like that kid, you know what I mean? Like it's like the Jedi equivalent of like, oh, that kid's he grew on me, like the.
Do you know what it was to me? It was the Jedi equivalent of like Bert from Mary Poppins going, oh, that old East Wind's coming back again. Strange things are happening, It's
yeah. So I think there's an opportunity that they could very well give Ahsoka the character arc of she balks at training him out of fear. And then realizes that fear is the very thing that led to, the lack of vulnerability, whether that was by pulling back or armoring up or whatever it is, and maybe she sees that like this is her opportunity to break the cycle. Maybe she decides that she is the person for the job. So I mean, I wouldn't be mad about that either. The reason I hadn't brought it up is because I came on so hard as an Ahsoka stan. I didn't want to just pour more flame on that fire and just be like, look, guys, like more excuses for her. Bring me back to Rosario Dawson.
So Tracy, are you going to talk about the Dave Filoni interview?
No.
Okay, you go first, and then I need to talk about that though.
Hold on. Go ahead, Tracy. Sorry.
Okay. Do you remember last week when I said they're gonna what's it called? The Doctor Who episode where he gathers everybody together.
Yeah.
And the Doctor goes to war. A good man goes to war.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
They're gonna do that. So Ahsoka's gonna come back anyway because they're getting everybody together. And I think he's gonna pull every single person in, even like Pelly, from Tatooine. Like I think
she'll come in at the end, like they won't be able to get a hold of her, and then she'll come in at the end.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if the frog couple shows up. Like he's gonna get the gang together, like all these random people.
I do think that too. I think Bo-Katan's gonna show back up.
Yeah,
like I think they're all.
It's just like Mandalorians that survived from his group
from the covenant, right?
It's not like my my mouth wants to say coven, and that's not the right word at all. And it's just the witchy tendencies wanting to say that. But that's not it. It's the covert. There we are.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. It's like, because it was always so ambiguous as to like you saw a pile of helmets, but it was never like, there was also a bunch of them coming in and out of there. So like, it's implied some of them might have survived.
So here's the thing. So there was an interview on Vanity Fair with both Dave Filoni and Rosario Dawson talking about, Ahsoka's kind of coming to live action screen, and the totally Dave Filoni thing that he does at the end of the interview is, he addresses the fact that, the epilogue of Rebels shows Ahsoka Tano showing up to call Sabine back to action to go and find Ezra Bridger. And it was pretty much assumed that, that moment in time would either be before The Mandalorian and we would see Sabine with Ahsoka, or after the course of The Mandalorian, right? Thinking that the Sabine and Ahsoka would be like the premise of whatever that show is. But he basically just says, we don't know when in the time period that is. I mean, it could be before, it could be after, right? So that brings into the possibilities that she gives a wry wink to Grogu as they fly off, and basically, goes off to go recruit Sabine and says, that's a possibility. And if you do that, right, is that then you have Ahsoka and Sabine as part of the ensemble for next season.
A lot of things could happen there. There's so many ways this could definitely go. And my friends and I used to call this the greatest hits episode. Whenever you have this whole ensemble cast coming back and kind of reminiscing, hey, you remember me from this episode? Now I'm back to health, and the greatest hits episode. So I assume that's coming in some respect. And I do want to talk about that in the speculations we're going to do in a little bit.
Yeah.
But also, along with Boba Fett coming down there, kicking ass, Grogu calling out to the stars, and I'm actually getting used to saying Grogu. Anyway,
it's also like Goku, but with an R.
That's happened to me before, Anyway.
Have you seen the comic where I think it's Kylo saying "grow, goo, grow, goo, grow, baby Yoda"? I
So, the last element, I guess, of the show that they really pushed was, we finally get to see these dark troopers come down, look all menacing. They didn't do much, but they didn't have to. Of the whole,
they come in flying like the Iron Legion from
Iron
Ultron.
Man?
Just call it Favreau. Hey, can we get some of those Iron Man effects, guys? I need them to fly in and walk really menacingly. So they came in, grabbed the child, and now it's like we have another force that they have to deal with. Not only the stormtrooper zombie-ish horde that they plowed through, literally with the rock in this case, but now we have dark troopers and whatever else Moff Gideon has under his under wraps. So, Ron, what do you guys think of the dark trooper?
I've heard that the Phase 3 Dark Trooper is kind of like a Hulkbuster, and he might actually get into it.
Oh,
to do like one final epic battle scene, maybe?
There are 3 versions of the 3 phases of the Dark Trooper, right?
Okay, so Ian just said Cylons, and that was what is in my notes too, that they look like Cylons. Thank you,
yes,
Ian.
They do. Battlestar Galactica.
The other thing too, right, is that they were not named Dark Troopers, but Grand Admiral Thrawn in Rebels did have Imperial Sentry droids that basically look exactly like these Dark Troopers that guarded him in his office too, which is one of many callbacks that might be hinting at a Grand Admiral Thrawn reveal. Obviously, we had the name drop from the magistrate last week. We know that she works for him and has been building his fleet. We saw the HK droids that had the 7th Fleet insignia on their heads. There's a... I don't want to get too deep into that. I'm going to save some of this kind of speculation for later.
So yeah, we have also had the last thing, I guess, Ming-Na returning, Finnick as the bounty hunter with the heart of pistons, abs of pistons,
and the abs of steel. Yeah,
Robo-belly.
So sometimes I get annoyed when they bring characters back like that, but I was really happy with this one. I was like, oh yeah, Robo-belly, I'm good with it.
I love it because it's like, we forget that Star Wars always needs just like a 5% of cheese to make it like charming.
If they can give people new hands, they can give her new abs.
Yeah.
No, she was dressed in black instead of purple, but her armor and her hairstyle were kind of like the gal who was teamed up with Jango Fett in the prequels.
Yes, episode 2.
Yeah, Baz.
Oh gosh, I can't remember.
Zam Wessel.
I remember.
Right. Oh, nice.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, for those who don't remember, the assassin that put the little creepy crawly through the window and just trying to kill Padme.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
I could not remember her name. That was a good call.
Yeah, and then they finally, Anakin and Obi-Wan caught up to her, and from afar, Jango shot a dart into her and killed her, so she couldn't reveal any information about him. So it's kind of interesting that they've got, Jango teamed up with Zam, and then somebody who's got a very similar aesthetic teaming up with Boba.
And him patching her up actually, and as opposed to taking her out, which could be like a very subtle way of a character, of kind of providing a bit of a character arc there. Which I don't know. I thought it was kind of nice that they're like, yeah, so technically, like, we're still obligated to you. They could have really easily argued to opt out, and they know what kind of trouble they're heading into. But both of them were like, yeah, well, like, we're kind of obligated to go help you with the kid because, like,
It's living by a code.
That's the really interesting thing, right? Like, there's a number of things they've done with Boba Fett now that basically contradict a lot of previous legend and canon stories, right? That Boba Fett is honorable, that Boba Fett is lawful neutral. He's not like just straight up ruthless bad guy. And that he's not kind of lone bounty hunter. And whether that's because he has survived the Sarlacc pit, or he's always been there. Of course, all of this linking to Jango Fett, like now his armor is actually Jango Fett's armor, which was not the case originally. But it's a great tie-in. It fits in with the overarching theme of the Mando of Din Djarin discovering Mandalorians who are not Mandalorian in the way that he has perceived them to be, right? I mean,
or not even technically Mandalorian at all. Right.
Well, this is a cool thing too, that we learned that Jango Fett was a foundling, right? That he was on Concord Dawn as a foundling and fought in the Civil Wars. That's a major drop for the lore.
Yeah, well, and they still kind of kept it
canon.
They still kind of kept it somewhat vague with Boba Fett himself claiming the Mandalorian status. He said, I follow my own code. He's like, do you follow the Mandalorian code? And he replies, I follow my own code. He said he got his stuff from his father. He's doing things for his reasons, but he never goes out and says, yeah, Mandalorian, this is the way. What's up? Let's do our secret handshake. He doesn't do any of that. So he himself, that kind of leaves the lore open to everyone's discussions about, is he a Mandalorian or not? It's still kind of vague. I like that though.
Yeah.
So, with the directing of this episode, it definitely had a different feel from the last one. And we were talking earlier. We were talking earlier, Lexi. This one was so much more unclean, brutal was some of the words used. The camera shots were a lot different. And you mentioned that it was a bit of a intentional contrast from the, well laid out, calm, I don't want to say softer tone, but a more chill tone from the previous one. So just let us know a little bit of your thoughts on the direction here.
I mean, pacing is absolutely everything in these. As you pointed out, a big difference with Filoni's episode was it relied a lot. Even though we had that great duel. Like I'm not, okay. Like we had the shootout and the duel. Those were great. Really well executed, but overall it did rely a lot more on dialogue and laying that kind of groundwork. So the pacing was very different. We got a lot of really good feel good character moments and emotional connections, a lot of emotional payoffs that way. And I've had a directing professor for really really talented guy, Carnegie Mellon and other things. And he would always talk about building your audience up high before you want to deliver a traumatic blow. It's really manipulative, actually. It's incredibly manipulative because what you do is they've been doing it. I was wondering what they were going to build up to, but they've been doing it for the last couple of episodes where they give you these little bonding moments with different characters between Grogu and the different characters, where I think there's one part where you have Grief Karga who's like snuggling him and talking to him. You have, all the times that Cara Dune gets protective over him. You have all these really nice moments that are just, we all know the audience loves Baby Yoda, but you get to see the impact that Grogu's made on these characters, right? As well.
Actually, on that, can I? Oh, sorry. Finish your thought first.
Oh, I understand. So they get us feeling. They get us comfortable is the wrong word, but they get us really, attached. Yeah, they get us really attached to this little family that Grogu has connected around him, has collected. And then in under 40 minutes, they rip it all away. Mm-hmm. They rip it all away ruthlessly, too. Really ruthlessly, on purpose, completely on purpose.
On that note, I also we didn't talk about the opening scene of this where we see I think we hear the Mando laugh for the first time, right? Where he's just he's playing catch with the ball and he's just or he's just having fun saying Grogu. And he's like, huh? Grogu.
Yeah, he answers to it. He's like, we're answering to your name. Yeah.
The tone of Din's voice, it was just so paternal.
It was so sweet.
Oh, my ovaries exploded.
And I don't even want kids, and I was like, all right, okay, I think I might be ovulating. This is a problem.
well, the dialogue there too is also really poignant too, because he starts talking to Grogu about, okay, so when we find this Jedi, that the nice lady, I love he calls Ahsoka the nice lady. He starts prepping Grogu is you've got to be ready to say goodbye, right? And he does say, this is actually the other scenario that we didn't talk about in terms of teachers, but he says, because I can't teach you, you're too powerful, right? That was a key, really interesting, character moment there. I can't teach you, you're too powerful. But here he is playing catch with him, right?
I thought that was one of the, I don't know. I thought that was one of my favorite moments because first of all, it shows why he's such a good fighter, because he knows his own strengths and weaknesses. He knows what he's capable of. He gets himself in over his head sometimes, but it's because he knows that there's other things at his disposal. And I don't know, it just, it was one, but he doesn't say it out loud to anybody. He never says it out loud to anybody, not even the people that he trusts enough to work with. Right. So that, again, all along, there was a lot of, speaking of that whole juxtaposing of bringing people up to rip the rug out from underneath them, a really good way. I think it was just really beautiful what they did. Is they really juxtaposed. They had a lot of brutality, a lot of violence, and then it would be completely placed at odds with these really tender moments of Mando laughing because he's connecting with his kid. You know, he's connecting with his adopted son, and just enjoying that. And it is a sign of vulnerability for him to say, you know what, buddy, you like I can't train you. You're too much for me. You're too much for me, little guy. You know. It's a very fatherly thing to say that, like, oh, you're going to be bigger than I am someday, kid. You're going to be a way bigger deal than I am someday. It's such a fatherly lone wolf and cub moment.
Yeah. And there's totally, I totally vibe with that. And I didn't think about it before, but Andy, you mentioned, playing catch, with, he was playing catch with Grogu. And when you said that just connected it to me on a totally different level, because if you think about it, if you want to give them a place called home where they would play catch or whatever, it's the Razor Crest. Yeah. The scenes in the cockpit were always these bonding moments between him, the Mandalorian, and Grogu. And the ship, the Razor Crest, didn't sink. It didn't crash somewhere. It got obliterated.
It's pulverized.
Gone.
I was
which is honestly such a great fake out, right? Because we watched the ship, it's been the theme of watching Mando get kind of stripped down bit by bit by bit, and then they fixed it up, and it's gone.
I thought it was going to be like Baby from Supernatural, where it gets beat to hell, and they patch her right up again, and then he it follows him to the grave. I thought it was going to be a baby, and
he can put it back together.
It'll still only have the little ball, the little screw thing. That's the only thing that's going to be the same.
Well, okay, yeah. So an important point, right?
Calling it right now.
Important point. The only two things left are, of course, the ball of the knob for the top of the thing, and the Beskar spear, right? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of important.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be part of the final duel. I think it's going to go up against the Darksaber.
It has to be.
Mm-hmm.
They set him up perfectly to go up against the Darksaber because he's the only one who can, besides Ahsoka.
Before we move past the fatherly thing, first of all, I know so many people who are super screwed up, and they always say it's because their dad didn't play catch with them. So I really appreciated that he was playing catch with his son. And second of all, he has so much more patience in some ways, but then, he puts him on the rock and he's like, okay, come on, chop, chop. Let's do that. Why is nothing happening? And I'm like, dude, give him a minute.
Where's the button?
Right.
How do we start the thing?
And then a couple of things about the Seeing Stone is that did you wonder why, I thought maybe it was because of his Beskar armor that he was kind of bending. First of all, it's a literal force field, but he's kind of bending the force field as opposed to it just knocking him back. And I was wondering if that was because he was wearing the Beskar.
I don't know.
Speaking of the Beskar spear, because that's the one thing that can kind of go up against any kind of Jedi, anything, whether it's, a Kuiper crystal based weapon or the Force or, whatever.
Yeah. Maybe Yoda in his little lotus position.
All right. So do we want to speculate on anything really quickly? That we covered most of the stuff in the episode, but now there's stuff external to the episode. Andy, you had some thoughts on the speculations.
Yeah, well, so here's the thing, right? I've got a couple of crackpot thoughts, but I'm going to save that for last. So the next thing that we know that we have 2 more episodes left. The next one is Chapter 15, which is directed by Rick Famuyiwa, who directed Chapter 2 and Chapter 6. We remember The Prisoner, which is important to know because, of course, we're going to probably see the return of Migs Mayfield, who played into The Prisoner episode before. Mayfeld, sorry, by performed by Bill Burr. And then the last episode, Chapter 16, is still unknown. We still don't know who the director is. There is still no title. That is an interesting mystery.
The Rescue.
We'll see. So let's quickly just run down all of our different hanging plot threads, right?
Well,
so
the title is going to be something to do with juxtaposing of the tragedy, because in the first season you had the sin when he let the kid go, and then I think redemption was when he was when he gets it back. So there's going to be some kind of big that's the title is going to obviously say a lot about it, and it's going to be very stylistically juxtaposed to the tragedy.
That's good. That's a good idea. So we need to know who Grogu talked to, if he actually got a Jedi Master, and if anyone is on their way. We also know that the Armorer is out there somewhere, and the Armorer lied to Din Djarin because we know that the Covert are actually a cult called the Watch, and they are fundamentalist extremists, probably offshoot of Death Watch. We know that Bo-Katan out there and is building her forces to take back the planet Mandalore that is apparently under Imperial conquest. We know that Moff Gideon has the Darksaber, which he threatened Baby Yoda with, right? And we don't know how he got it, or if that connects him to the occupation of Mandalore. We also know that Moff Gideon is about to take the child to Dr. Pershing, presumably to drain some of his high M count blood. There's also stuff going on with we saw Cara Dune come back for a quick moment, right, where we know that she is now pseudo accepting her role with the New Republic and has like the Marshal. We know that little emblem is a Marshal star, and so whether or not she has some pull with the New Republic government or not, we'll find out. We also know that Ahsoka is still out there searching for Grand Admiral Thrawn, right? And which brings into the question, right? Is Thrawn the Emperor to Moff Gideon's Darth Vader? Is Thrawn basically our mastermind that will be revealed for season 3?
So, very quickly, and for those who don't know all the Star Wars craziness that goes on, the lore and the stories. Really quickly, Andy, they threw out Ahsoka Tano, mentioned Thrawn in the previous episode, and it just kind of left a lot of people with a question mark over their head. Really quickly, who is this guy?
Boy. Okay. I gotta scroll down. Okay. So, Grand Admiral Thrawn. Grand Admiral Thrawn was a character that was originally introduced for a series of books by Timothy Zahn called Heir to the Empire. And he was basically the Grand Admiral Commander of the 7th Fleet of the Imperial Navy. That's important because he was the most unusual Star Wars Imperial villain in the whole canon, in that he did not rule his troops by fear or by threat of execution. He ruled them by loyalty because he was a master strategist. He is a member of a race called the Chiths, who are a very rare race that they're off in the outworld sectors, and he has always been written as this kind of he's kind of like, if you think of Mycroft Holmes, he is kind of this kind of brilliant mastermind who will conquer worlds by basically studying their art, their language, their linguistics, and coming up with the psychology and sociology of how best to oppress and destroy and demoralize his opponents. And you see a lot of that in Rebels, where he shows up. You see a lot of that in the original Heir to the Empire trilogy. Then you'll get, and then if you really want to dig in deep, there's also a new trilogy of books that are all about Thrawn right now. Also written by Timothy Zahn. They're called the Thrawn Trilogy, which get into his new canon origins, because originally all of his character was kind of tossed out in the Disney Purge. And they have very quickly reinserted him back into canon. So, But that's
Tracy, I thought you were gone for like forever. Tracy just jumped out of camera. I don't know what that was about. I thought the phone just...
all of a sudden my fingers like started bleeding.
Is that what happens when
and it wouldn't stop? Yeah, it wouldn't stop, and so I was like, I'm just gonna grab a tissue. I was hoping nobody would notice.
Well, no one's been kicked off the internet yet, so something had to happen.
Oh, knock on wood, knock on Beskar.
Yes.
Oh gosh. Yeah, Andy. Actually, I thought with the blue light you've got going on there, I thought you were throwing a little, Thrawn reference in, beforehand, but.
What color are your eyes?
Yeah, no, my eyes are not glowing red. Well, so this is my crackpot theory, right? If I kind of feel like that whole original Thrawn series is so well beloved. It was the source of many really beloved characters by a lot of the fans, including Thrawn, including Mara Jade, who in the Legends universe was a Force-sensitive woman who became the wife of Luke Skywalker. She has a great, interesting story, but that's long. The other thought that I had is if Thrawn really shows up in any of these next 2 episodes, then maybe the random Jedi that shows up could be Mara Jade, and they just go full on and reintroduce a lot of these story ideas from the Heir to the Empire trilogy, because that story, that three novel arc is beloved, is absolutely beloved by a lot of fans.
Dude, you just that would be amazing. I did read all those novels, and one of the things I always hated was that Mara Jade didn't appear. It didn't show up in any of this stuff, right? And so
it would fit the ethos of the show, bringing in
exactly.
characters that have are fan favorites and have the potential to have really juicy arcs and storylines, but haven't really had the attention from the mainstream, and then it would fit with that ethos.
Ooh.
So could you imagine like getting a couple more seasons of The Mandalorian and all of these other spin-off shows that basically play out the events of Heir to the Empire in a new way? Like maybe the whole reason why Moff Gideon wants to become Force sensitive and get transfusions of the M count blood is so that he can be the Force user who does the battle meditation to control Thrawn's
not only that. In those novels, I did read several of those, and then in those novels, Luke and Leia, obviously they had twins in those novels, so it's a little bit different. But Luke had the school, they had the Jedi school, and they were going around the universe finding other Force-sensitive, kids. And so they were rebuilding the Jedi. They were rebuilding the Jedi Order. Now, obviously, it's a little bit different now with what we've seen with trilogy. But maybe Grogu is something like that, where it's like there is some sort of new Jedi order being built, and it's going to be led by Ahsoka or something. I don't know.
I'd actually like
Mara
to see
Jade
that.
would be amazing. Mara Jade would be.
Well, and she would bring back another Force user that would not necessarily be a Jedi, right? Much like Ahsoka. So you could save all these characters by not having them sign up with Luke Skywalker and set up their own new faction of Jedi Force users on another side of the galaxy that don't get, obliterated by the First Order.
Yeah, I'm expecting that. I'm expecting that Thrawn will be this kind of cliffhanger character, kind of like the way Moff Gideon was at the end. So we kind of finished everything up, and then we learned a little more about why Gideon was doing what he was doing, and Mr. Blueface Red Eye shows up and scares everybody, and the internet lights up.
Just widening the lens.
He was also voiced by Lars Mikkelsen in Rebels.
Ooh.
Who you could paint him blue and he'd be fantastic. I mean,
Yeah.
he's got
they did better with
Jinx, I
Ahsoka's
literally
face
just
paint.
typed that in the Zoom chat. Jinx,
Sorry,
Andy, I literally just typed that in Zoom chat. That Lars Milkinson. I didn't even finish it. I was like, I hit enter right away. I was like, yeah, I was just looking it up, and I was like, yeah, I was thinking in my head, like, if who would they play? Because obviously they mention him, he's gonna show up somehow, right?
It's a Chekhov's gun, man.
Right, exactly.
I have a quick question.
But Lars Milkinson would be amazing.
So if you've got they're already filming season 3, and I think, or are they? I don't know. They're somewhere in.
They're scheduled.
They're scheduled it. Okay.
Yeah.
And the Cassian Andor series is already started to schedule in 2021 February, I think.
That's right.
So, does that connect heavily, or is that something completely different?
I think Cassian Andor is still supposed to be like a prequel to Rogue One. So that's still like a completely different era, right? If anything, right, that could tie into the Obi-Wan series.
So the reason I'm thinking about that is because, Disney Plus has found the way for Disney to get out of all of its problems. They've been big on video on demand and streaming. And for those of you who don't know, they really shifted a lot of their corporate push into the streaming and into the digital era. So while old fuddy-duddy companies like AMC are mad, Disney is pushing on with the streaming thing because this is the way.
Yeah, they're going to be doing a relay race with Marvel.
Yeah.
So I know I've already kind of said most of my crackpot theories throughout with everybody coming together, and I think that and the Beskar spear going against the Darksaber. Mm-hmm. There's people who are agreeing with me in the chat that there's a good chance that Moff's going to die at the end of the season. Like, that'll be the big thing. I think that the silver ball is going to be kind of Grogu. He's
going to Magneto it.
I think sort of. The vision that I have in my head is like Yondu with his arrow.
Right.
Like that little ball is just going to be like,
yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
He's gonna turn it into his own. Well, because he has a precedent for it because he's seen Mando use the birds.
Mm-hmm.
He's seen Mando use the birds on his arm.
And if it survives,
right? Whistling birds.
I mean, let me add my speculation here too.
Wait, Mando, if it's the only other thing that survived,
Baby Yoda,
the only thing that survived, then it's made a Beskar.
Yes. Baby Yoda is on one end. I mean, Grogu is on one end. Moff Gideon's right here in the middle.
Baby Grogu.
Mando is over here. He tells, "Hey, shoot! Let's play catch, or vice versa, Mando has the ball and he says catch,
right through his eye,
and then right through his eye. Exactly.
Yeah.
There you go.
You know what? Actually, I feel like Moff Gideon's going to survive to next season, but giving him like a mortal injury, like losing an eye and an eye patch, I could totally see.
They set it up by saying you'll lose an eye, you'll poke your eye out. Which one of Jon Favreau's best friends is Peter Billingsley, who was the kid in A Christmas Story.
Wow.
Shoot your eye out.
Or he could lose a hand. I mean, this is like the second. Is it traditional to lose a hand, for someone to lose a hand?
It's traditional to have some form of dismemberment for a Star Wars villain at this point. I think he's due for some kind of dismembering. And besides, like, it's Giancarlo Esposito. Like, did we all see Breaking Bad and Face Off? That episode where they literally blow. Okay, yeah, Giancarlo Esposito's character dies, literally, like, has half of his face blown off.
I expect them to throw. Yeah, exactly. So, I expect them to throw him in. I expect him to throw Gideon in one of those Snoke rehabilitation tanks of blue water, and maybe he'll grow part of his face back, or they'll do something. I don't know.
Maybe he'll look like a Borg next season.
There we go.
He'll start to be on his way to General Grievous.
Yeah.
Status kind of thing.
Arms.
Real quickly, I want to definitely thank everybody in the chat who's been following along. We love your comments, what you're saying. Definitely want to give a special shout out to Ring Capacity and Aaron Nabus for their donations. It's very much appreciated, and we'll keep making good content. Thank you for your comments.
And Ange did. I think she subscribed for 9 months, and the little icon in the thing was 3 rolls of toilet paper wrapped up in a bow.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a COVID thing or what, but I was like, when I went to thank her, it showed up as 3 rolls of toilet paper with a bow. I was like, thanks, toilet paper. Here's toilet paper.
That's an emoji.
It did it automatically. I don't know, but thank you, Ange.
All right. And speaking of the community, we've got our squad report section here. So if you ever have any questions that you want us to like research or really think about, or you just want to hear me, Andy, Lexi, and Tracy argue over something in the Star Wars universe, you can send them to us through social media,
And
Facebook,
fight.
YouTube, or whatever. Yes, Andy and I have fought before. We're well practiced.
I just fight to get a word in. That's what I fight.
Oh yeah, the great wars of what year was that, Andy? Never mind. I don't want to get the great fan base wars is what I call it.
Yes,
but
the great fan base wars.
squad reports. So we got a question from Christopher John Lim Bunny from the Pangeekery Facebook page. Man, what I want to know is why was Ahsoka like, I only knew one other being like him, referring to Yoda, when we know for a fact that Master Yaddle was in the council too. Granted, she may have been a short-term council seat, but she still should be somewhere.
I don't know how much Ahsoka actually had to do with her, though. Like all of her dealings that we see with, like when she was saying no, she might have meant like personally.
So
That's the only thing. That's the only thing I can think of is that it's like a semantics thing where she's talking about, yeah, like it's the only other one I knew.
So
Yeah,
for people who
that's
don't know
kinda
who
why
Yaddle is, for those who don't know who Yaddle is another of, actually the only other of Yoda's species who we saw and made an appearance just sitting on a chair of the Jedi Council in The Phantom Menace.
My crackpot theory is that she's his mom because now we know that Goku came from the Jedi Temple and the timing is not completely wrong and Yoda's love child with his fellow council member. There's a lot of other theories that would make me happy, but like actually happy, but that's the crackpot theory.
I also really want Yaddle to be his mom, but so according to some canon sources, Yaddle was one of the Jedi who left the Jedi Council somewhat in protest after Qui-Gon Jinn died. So in theory, she would have left the council shortly after the events of Episode 1 and was replaced by Jedi Master Shakti. Now, Ahsoka was actually selected to join the Order by Master Plo Koon when she was 3 years old. She would have been a youngling and about maybe like 4 years old when Yaddle withdrew. So it's unlikely that she would have interacted with Yaddle because she would have been like a youngling and only 3 or 4 years old, and you know there's a lot of Jedi in the temple, so.
But not many that are like 2 feet tall.
I mean, she would have been right at her eye level.
Wonder if it was a bad breakup and maybe Yoda had her removed from the council archives. I don't know. That could be a.
Or maybe she left because they wanted. Maybe she left because she was pregnant.
They sent her to the nunnery.
I'm just running with this.
Did you see there is a comic. I did see a comic where it's like Yoda. It's actually Yoda, and then like Mando's like they're flying in the spaceship together, and Yoda's like, "Hey, I'm not paying child support. I'm out of here."
Child support, I am not.
Yes.
All right. So yeah, we are ready and set for whatever is coming up next in the Star Wars universe and next week. I don't know if any of you guys have any more speculation or anything you want to say before we get out of here.
Oh, there's so many things, but too many things.
Yes.
If we,
because
if
there are
we
so
weren't
many
already
things.
20 minutes over, I'd add more, but
Yes. All right. For any of these things, you can find us on the interwebs. Make sure you jump out and subscribe to our YouTube channel where we'll be posting this video. We also are on Twitch, and obviously, so you'll be able to find us here every week. And you write down notes, and it's like YouTube, Twitch. So I said Twitch, but you're obviously here on Twitch, unless you're listening to this later on YouTube. Anyway. We can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And also, we definitely have our podcast streams up. So if you are the kind of guy who searches for us on, what do we have?
Girl.
Stitcher, iTunes, very true, or Droid, or Girl,
or like, anything else. There's a lot of options out there.
If you are any sentient being who is online, you can find us on Stitcher, iTunes, Google Podcast, Pocket Cast. There are a couple other Spotify, the major ones. We're already out there. So make sure that you catch up with us on those channels. And if we do not have your particular podcast feed, let us know and we will get that to you. So that's our time. We really hope you enjoyed this show. Keep at us with the questions, and let's make sure we can find everybody where we are online as individuals. Andy, where can they find you?
You can find me at Chinese Pirate _ on all platforms, and the Chinese Pirate on Facebook, and on the Chinese Pirate Productions on YouTube. That's it. Huh? Oh. Okay. Yeah. Also, I, as if you don't know, I'm also the director of production and casting for East West Players, which is the longest running theater of color in the nation, and the largest professional producer of Asian American theater in the nation. And so I hate being public about it, but so I'm gonna be 45 in a couple of days. And
you don't look a day over 44.
Thank you. So I have created a fundraiser with my coworker on Facebook that you can find. We'll go ahead and post it on the Facebook site. But I'm trying to raise money for East West Players. As you did not know, or perhaps you do know, that any companies that usually produce live events or live theater or live concerts are having a rough time right now. Most of us are not going to be reopening to the public, having live events probably until this time next year, honestly. And though we are pivoting to digital events and other different kinds of things, every little bit helps. So if you can, even like $5 donations helps. And please look into a lot of the other organizations that you love if you want them to stick around. Even some of your favorite venues. There are theaters and music venues that I want to be able to go back to when we are able to.
Aren't you auctioning off ornaments with some really amazing actors, right?
We that actually is already passed. So we also had a tree that was decorated by our scenic shop, by our prop shop. Actually, it was all handmade origami ornaments by Glenn Michael Baker, who is our prop master for East West Players, and it also included a number of celebrity photos with autographs from Zira Fazal, who does she's the voice actor on DC's Young Justice. Also, we had Kelly Marie Tran, of course, from Star Wars, the last two Star Wars films, as well as the upcoming Raya the Last Dragon. Dee Dee Magno Hall, who was on Steven Universe, getting Watanabe. Lisa Briones from Star Trek Picard. Her father, John Briones, who is on the show Ratched right now, if you love that show. So that actually was a tree auction at the South Coast Plaza.
Wait, that's her dad?
Oh yeah. And he also was the engineer on the West End for Miss Saigon.
Sorry, this like blew my mind.
Yeah.
She's half.
Yeah.
She's half.
Oh my
she's
God.
half Filipino, half white. Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's
and
awesome.
her mom is also a theater singer as well.
Wait, He's in a bunch of Ryan Murphy stuff.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
first joined the ensemble.
He was the
Yeah.
Assassination of Versace was his first.
Yes.
Thing, yeah. He played.
Oh my god.
and
he
she was
played
in it
the
as well.
dad. He played the dad, Kunanen's dad, or
Yeah.
the elder Kunanen. So, yeah. He's
and of course-
amazing. He's amazing.
And of course, Issa also won an ovation, a local theater award, the Ovation Award, when she was Natalie in our production of Next to Normal, which was a fantastic musical. So that was a tree auction at South Coast Plaza, which just ended this last night, actually.
Aw. Well, I hope you guys made lots of money off of that.
Thank you.
Well, congratulations. All right, sorry, I chopped out there a little earlier, and but I think I'm back here for the outro. All right, so Tracy, let us know where they can find you.
All right. You can find me on Facebook at Hot Nerd Girl and Instagram at Hot Nerd Girl Official and Twitter at hot_nerd_girl. And I really want to encourage everybody to if you're going to buy holiday gifts, to buy from like artists and makers and like jewelry makers and people who are just really crafty and doing what they can to survive, as opposed to getting all your gifts on Amazon or Walmart or something like that. And I posted some good links, and if you have any others, let me know. But that's kind of my goal for this holiday season, is even if you only have 2 gifts to buy, because I know times are really tough, you can benefit other people as well as the gift recipient. So that's my big push for this holiday season. So
Excellent. And we'll definitely be sure to do that. Help out your small businesses and friends and family before Amazon. And we can talk about them later. Lexi, let us know where they can find you.
Instagram, Kaleidoscope Preacher. That's my creative archive. And my website is the same, kaleidoscopepreacher.com. That has more current projects and booking information, although most of that's live events, which again, we were just talking, not happening right now. But, still available for shoots and things. And really, you guys should absolutely go check out East West Players and give them some love. I had the privilege of working with them for a couple months on one of their productions, and it's just one of the best companies that I've ever been fortunate enough to work with. Just great people.
Oh. Andy, sorry about that. I wasn't sure if you were passing on Andy.
We're good.
Oh, no,
that was just me kind of I'm personally biased. I really appreciate East West Players a lot, and I want them to very much to make it through this whole shift in the industry.
Yeah.
One other thing I wanted to mention. So we are based in Little Tokyo, Los Angeles, and the Little Tokyo Community Council is doing a great program because it covers a lot of different bases. It supports a lot of the struggling businesses in Little Tokyo, many of them that are legacy businesses that have been there 50, 100 years, by taking in donations and having them create meals and meal packages. And those meals are then bought and then distributed to people in need who are seeing hard times during COVID-19. So this is a community feeding program. If you look up the Little Tokyo Community Council website, if you have lost a job, or if you have had any difficulties, and just need a little bit of assistance, no questions asked. Just please look that up. It is also open to creative workers as well. That's a recent change in a partnership with East West Players, Visual Communications, and one other organization that was partnering in on that. So this is available to actors, technicians, writers, musicians, session performers, etc., creative artists. If you fit any of those realms and want a hot Japanese meal, please check that out.
Awesome. Well, I am. We'll definitely be sure to check that out, Andy, and definitely I'll follow up on that. The East West Players group is was about to say fantabulous. I've never said that before. The fantabulous organization. Definitely check those guys out. I've had a chance to run into them a couple times, and nothing but good to say about them. And you can find me, Mr. Benja, at mrbenja.com. I'll put all my links up there, and you can peruse through my blog post and some of my rants and things. But that pretty much does it for us today. So I am really glad that you were all able to join us in this continuing episode season thing that we're doing called the Pod Squadron. It's really been fun. I'm really having a joy talking with all of you guys, not just the host here, but also the community. And it's really fun. I want to keep it going. So be sure you connect with us any way you can. And remember, the truths that we cling to depend on our own point of view, and only the Sith deal in absolutes. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good one.